the Whispering Woods, and the Starry River. Once upon a time, in a land far beyond the mountains and the seas, there was a small hidden village called Willow Glade. The village was surrounded by a beautiful, mystical forest known as the Whispering Woods. The trees here were tall and ancient, with branches that swayed gently as if they were always sharing secrets with the wind. But there was something truly special about the Whispering Woods each night. When the moon rose high in the sky, the leaves would shimmer with a soft, silvery glow. This glow would attract all the little creatures of the forest's fireflies. Owls, and even the shy deer would come out to dance in the moonlight. The villagers often watched from their windows, enchanted by the nightly display. And they believed it was a gift from the spirits of the woods. Among the villagers was a young girl named Elara. She had golden hair that sparkled like sunlight, and eyes as blue as the clearest summer sky. Elara loved the forest more than anyone else. Every day after her chores, she would run into the Whispering Woods. With her little lantern, exploring its winding paths, listening to the whispering leaves, and talking to the animals she met. One evening, as Elara was preparing to visit the woods, her grandmother called her over. "Elara, my dear," she said softly, "tonight is the night of the Starry River. The forest will be more magical than ever. But you must be careful, for it is also the night when the guardian of the woods awakens. To protect the hidden secrets of this land." "The guardian of the woods?" Elara's eyes widened with curiosity. "I've never seen him." "No one has," her grandmother replied with a smile. "But they say he appears as a gentle breeze or a shadow between the trees. Just remember to be respectful of the forest, and it will guide you safely." Elara nodded eagerly, barely able to contain her excitement. She quickly put on her favorite blue cloak, grabbed her lantern, and dashed into the Whispering Woods. As she wandered deeper into the forest, the moon began to rise, bathing everything in a soft silver light. The leaves above her sparkled, creating a twinkling canopy, and the air was filled with the scent of wildflowers. Elara could hear the soft rustle of tiny creatures moving around her: rabbits, foxes, and even the mischievous squirrels who loved to play hide and seek. As she continued walking, Elara noticed something she had never seen before. The trees seemed to be leading her to a path she had never taken. It was narrower and darker, but it glowed faintly, as if tiny stars were hidden among the leaves. She felt a strange pull, as if the forest itself was inviting her to explore deeper. With a heart full of excitement and just a hint of fear, Elara followed the path until she reached a small clearing. At the center of the clearing was a shimmering river that glowed as if it were made of liquid starlight. She had heard tales of the Starry River, but she had never believed it truly existed. As she approached the river, she noticed a soft glow coming from beneath its surface. Curious, Elara bent down to take a closer look. To her amazement, she saw tiny fish swimming in the water, each one glowing like a tiny star. They twirled and danced, creating ripples that looked like constellations in the night sky. Suddenly, a gentle breeze swept through the clearing, and Elara felt a presence behind her. She turned around slowly, her lantern trembling in her hand, and saw a tall figure emerging from the shadows. It was the guardian of the woods. He was unlike anything Elara had imagined. He was neither human nor animal, but a blend of both, His body was made of leaves and bark, and his eyes glowed like the moon. He spoke with a voice that sounded like the rustling of leaves on a windy day. "Greetings, little one," the guardian said, his voice both soothing and mysterious. "What brings you to the heart of the Whispering Woods on this special night?" Elara bowed her head respectfully. "I didn't mean to intrude," she said. "I was just exploring and found my way here. I've always been curious about the forest." The guardian's eyes softened, and he gave a gentle nod. "Curiosity is a gift, but it must be balanced with respect. Tonight is a magical night, young one. The Starry River only reveals itself once a year, and it is said that those who see it can make a wish." Elara's heart leapt with joy. A wish! She had so many dreams, so many hopes. But as she looked around at the beautiful forest, she realized that she wanted something not just for herself, but for everyone who loved this magical place. She closed her eyes and whispered her wish softly. "I wish that the Whispering Woods will always remain beautiful, safe, and full of wonder, so that children and animals can come here and find joy forever." The guardian smiled warmly. "Your wish is pure and kind," he said. "For this, the forest will forever be grateful. The Whispering Woods will thrive and flourish, and your kindness will be remembered by the trees, the rivers, and all the creatures that dwell here." As a token of gratitude, the guardian reached into the Starry River and pulled out a small, glowing crystal. "This is a gift for you, Elara," he said. "As long as you carry this crystal, you will always find your way home, no matter how lost you may feel. It will light your path, just like your kind heart lights the world around you." Elara took the crystal with tears of gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you, guardian," she said. "I will cherish it always." The guardian nodded, then slowly faded back into the shadows, leaving Elara alone in the glowing clearing. She watched as the Starry River continued to sparkle and dance in the moonlight, feeling a warmth in her heart that she had never felt before. With her crystal glowing softly in her hand, Elara turned back and made her way home. The path that had seemed so dark before was now bathed in the gentle light of her new treasure. The trees whispered goodnight as she passed, and the forest seemed to sing a lullaby just for her. When Elara finally reached her village, she saw her grandmother waiting by the gate, her eyes twinkling with both relief and pride. Elara hugged her tightly and told her all about the Starry River and the guardian of the woods. Her grandmother listened with a smile, knowing that her brave granddaughter had been blessed by the forest itself. That night, as Elara lay in her bed, she placed the glowing crystal on her windowsill. The soft light filled her room, and she fell into a deep, peaceful sleep, dreaming of the magical forest and all the wonderful adventures yet to come. From that day on, the Whispering Woods remained vibrant and full of life. And every year, on the night of the Starry River, the villagers would gather to celebrate, knowing that the forest was safe, thanks to the wish of a kind-hearted girl named Elara. The Enchanted Garden and the Hidden Moon. A year had passed since Elara made her wish to protect the Whispering Woods. The village of Willow Glade had never been more lively, and the villagers could sense that the forest was more vibrant than ever. The leaves shimmered with an emerald glow in the sunlight. Flowers of every color bloomed along the paths, and birds filled the air with their joyous songs. Alara, who had become known as the forest's friend, continued to visit the Whispering Woods every day. She carried the glowing crystal given to her by the guardian of the woods, always feeling its comforting warmth in her pocket. The forest creatures had grown to trust her completely. Foxes would bring her wild berries, rabbits would hop along by her side, and even the shy deer would greet her with gentle nudges. One evening, as the golden sun dipped below the horizon, Alara was making her way back home when she heard the faint sound of crying. It was soft, like the whimper of a lost child, but it seemed to echo through the trees. She paused and listened carefully. The sound was coming from deeper within the forest, beyond the familiar paths she had explored. Alara's heart ached to hear such sadness in a place that had always brought her joy. With the moon beginning to rise, she lit her lantern and decided to follow the sound. The crystal in her pocket glowed faintly, guiding her as she ventured into an area of the forest she had never seen before. The trees here were older, their bark covered in thick moss, and the air had a faint scent of jasmine. The crying grew louder, and soon Alara found herself standing before an enormous stone archway covered in ivy. Beyond it lay a garden unlike any she had ever seen. The enchanted garden was filled with flowers that glowed in shades of blue, lavender, and gold. The petals shimmered like silk in the moonlight, and soft, twinkling lights floated above the flowers like miniature stars. It was breathtakingly beautiful, yet something about the garden felt sad. The air was thick with an unspoken sorrow. Alara stepped cautiously through the archway, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and concern. As she walked further in, she came across a fountain made of silver stone, its waters as clear as glass. And there, sitting at the edge of the fountain, was a tiny, delicate fairy. The fairy was no taller than a sparrow, with wings that glimmered like a dragonfly's in the moonlight. Her hair was the color of moonbeams, and her eyes were as blue as the deepest part of the sea. But those eyes were filled with tears. "Why are you crying?" Alara asked softly, kneeling down to be closer to the tiny creature. The fairy looked up, startled, but when she saw Alara's kind eyes, she relaxed. "Oh, dear human," she said in a voice as soft as the wind. "I am Amara, the keeper of the Moonflower Garden. My garden is wilting, and soon it will wither away completely. But it looks so beautiful," Alara said, glancing around at the glowing flowers. Amara shook her head sadly. "The magic is fading. The moonflowers bloom only when the hidden moon appears, and this year, the moon has not shown itself. Without its light, my flowers will lose their glow, and the creatures of the night who depend on them will be lost." Alara's heart filled with sympathy. "Is there a way to find the hidden moon?" she asked. "I will help if I can." The fairy's eyes brightened with a flicker of hope. "There is one way," Amara said. "Long ago, the hidden moon was stolen by a greedy sorceress named Morwenna, who was jealous of its light. She hid it in the depths of her dark tower beyond the Whispering Woods. No one has been able to retrieve it, for the tower is guarded by shadows and illusions that can trick even the bravest souls." Alara's resolve hardened. "Then I will go to Morwenna's tower and bring back the hidden moon," she said firmly. "The forest and its creatures have always been kind to me. It is my turn to protect them." Amara was amazed by Alara's bravery. She fluttered up to Alara's shoulder and whispered, If you truly wish to help, I will guide you. But you must be careful, the journey is dangerous, and Morwenna's magic is powerful. With the fairy perched on her shoulder and the glowing crystal in her pocket, Elera set off into the darkening forest. The trees seemed to part before her, their branches creating a protective canopy overhead. The deeper they went, the darker it became, until all that lit their path was the soft glow of the crystal. After a long and tiring journey, they reached the base of a towering, twisted spire made of black stone. The tower seemed to swallow the moonlight, leaving only shadows. Elera took a deep breath and stepped forward, her heart steady. She was determined to retrieve the hidden moon. As she climbed the spiral staircase within the tower, strange whispers filled the air. The walls seemed to shimmer and shift, showing her visions of her deepest fears, dark forests, lonely nights, and the faces of her loved ones fading away. Elera squeezed the crystal in her pocket and whispered to herself, "This is just an illusion. I must stay strong." With Amara's guidance, she navigated the maze of hallways until they reached a great iron door. Behind it, a dim, silvery light flickered. Elera pushed the door open with all her strength, and there, hovering in the center of the room, was the hidden moon. It was a glowing orb, smaller than she had imagined, but it radiated a light so pure it made her eyes water. However, as Elera reached for the orb, a cold voice echoed through the chamber. "Who dares to steal from me?" Morwenna, the sorceress, appeared in a swirl of dark mist. Her eyes were as cold as ice, and her fingers crackled with dark magic. Elera stood her ground. "I am not stealing," she said bravely. "I am returning the moonlight to the forest and to all who need it." Morwenna laughed cruelly. "You think you, a mere child, can take what I have claimed?" She raised her hands, and dark shadows began to swirl around her. But just as Morwenna was about to unleash her magic, Amara flew forward, her wings shimmering brightly. "Elera now!" the fairy shouted. Elera pulled the glowing crystal from her pocket and held it high. The crystal's light burst forth, filling the room with a brilliant, warm glow. The shadows around Morwenna screamed and dissolved in the light, and the sorceress herself shrieked as the magic she had stolen was undone. Seizing the moment, Elera reached out and grabbed the hidden moon. As soon as her fingers touched it, the light within the orb pulsed, and the darkness in the tower melted away. With Amara guiding her, Elera hurried back to the Whispering Woods. The moment she stepped into the enchanted garden, the hidden moon rose into the sky, casting its gentle light over the flowers. The moonflowers bloomed brighter than ever before, their petals shimmering like silver. Amara hugged Elera's finger in gratitude. "You have saved the garden, and all who dwell here," she said with tears of joy. "The forest will forever be in your debt." Elera smiled, her heart full of warmth. "I did it for the forest, and for all who love it," she said. "We are all connected." That night, as Elera made her way back to the village, the stars seemed to shine brighter, and the Whispering Woods sang a lullaby of gratitude. And when she reached her home, she placed the glowing crystal and a tiny moonflower by her window, knowing that the magic of the forest would always be with her. From that day on, the villagers celebrated not just the night of the Starry River, but also the festival of the hidden moon, honoring the bravery of Elera and the magic that lived within the forest and in their hearts. The Tale of the Nightingale and the Crystal Heart. Once upon a time, nestled deep within the whispering woods, there lived a magnificent bird known as the moonlit nightingale. This bird had feathers as dark as midnight, speckled with tiny, star-like spots that shimmered in the moonlight. Whenever the moon rose over the forest, the nightingale would sing the most enchanting melodies, so beautiful that they would bring peace to the hearts of all who listened. Her songs could calm a storm, heal broken spirits, and even make the flowers bloom brighter. But there was a secret to her songs that no one knew. Hidden beneath her soft feathers was a tiny crystal heart, gifted to her long ago by the guardian of the woods. This heart was made from a shard of the hidden moon itself, and it gave the nightingale her magical voice. As long as she sang, the forest would thrive, and the creatures within it would live in harmony. The nightingale was beloved by all the animals in the whispering woods. The foxes would gather to listen to her songs. The owls would hoot in delight, and even the shy deer would come out of their hiding places to dance to her melodies. Yet, despite her beauty and her gift, the nightingale was a lonely creature. She had no family of her own, and no companion to share her songs with. One evening, just as the moon was rising, the nightingale perched herself on a high branch to begin her nightly song. But as she opened her beak, she found that no sound would come out. Her heart fluttered in panic. She tried again and again, but no matter how much she tried, not a single note escaped her throat. Worried and confused, the nightingale flew down to a hidden glade where her old friend, the wise tortoise named Thaddeus, lived. Thaddeus had seen many things in his long life and knew more secrets of the forest than anyone else. Thaddeus, the nightingale, whispered as she landed beside him. "My voice is gone. I can no longer sing." The tortoise looked up from his patch of clover with a concerned expression. "This is indeed troubling," he said slowly. "Without your songs, the balance of the whispering woods will begin to unravel. The creatures depend on your melodies to bring peace and joy to their hearts." "Please, Thaddeus, what can I do?" the nightingale pleaded. The old tortoise thought for a long moment before answering. "There is a legend," he said. "It is said that deep within the forest lies an ancient enchanted garden, where the moonflowers bloom only under the light of the hidden moon. Within this garden, there is a fountain known as the Well of Whispers. The water there has the power to restore lost magic, but only if the seeker is willing to offer something of great value in return." The nightingale's eyes widened. "The Well of Whispers. I've heard of it in stories. But how will I find it? The forest is vast, and the garden is hidden." Thaddeus smiled gently. "Follow the light of your crystal heart, little nightingale. It was made from the same light as the hidden moon, and it will guide you. But be worried, the forest is not as peaceful as it seems. Shadows have been stirring since Morwenna's dark magic touched these woods." With a determined heart, the nightingale set off on her journey. The moonlight dimly lit her path, but the deeper she flew into the woods, the darker it became. The trees seemed to close in around her, and strange whispers filled the air. She clutched the crystal heart beneath her feathers, praying that it would lead her to the enchanted garden. After flying for hours, just as exhaustion was beginning to overtake her, the nightingale saw a soft, silver glow through the dense trees. With renewed hope, she followed the light and soon found herself in a breathtaking garden, filled with flowers that sparkled like stars. In the center of the garden stood the Well of Whispers, a fountain made of ancient stone, with waters so clear they reflected the sky like a mirror. The nightingale approached the well cautiously and peered into its depths. It seemed to hum with a gentle, soothing sound, like a distant lullaby. Gathering her courage, the nightingale whispered into the well, "I have lost my voice, the gift that brings joy to the whispering woods. Please, help me restore it." The waters rippled, and a soft, echoing voice emerged. "The gift you seek is precious, and restoring it requires a sacrifice. What will you offer in return?" The nightingale hesitated, then looked down at the crystal heart she had kept hidden all her life. This heart was not just the source of her magical voice, but also her connection to the moonlight, the one thing that had made her feel special in the lonely forest. With tears in her eyes, the nightingale pulled the crystal heart from beneath her feathers. "I offer my crystal heart," she said softly. "It is all I have to give." The moment the words left her beak, the crystal heart floated gently into the air and dissolved into a shower of silvery light that sank into the well. The waters glowed brighter, and then a warm light enveloped the nightingale. In that instant, she felt a rush of warmth in her throat, and when she opened her beak, a soft, melodious note escaped. Her voice had returned, but it was different, now richer, deeper, and filled with an ancient magic that resonated through the garden. The moonflowers turned their petals toward her, and the entire forest seemed to sigh in relief. The animals, who had been hiding in fear of the strange darkness, came out of their burrows and dens to listen to her song once more. Yet, as the nightingale sang, she realized something had changed. Without her crystal heart, she no longer glowed in the moonlight as she once did. Her feathers, though still beautiful, were now the color of dusk, a soft shade of twilight blue. But the nightingale did not mind. Her heart was lighter than it had ever been because she had gained something far more precious, the love and gratitude of the entire forest. She had given up her crystal heart, but in doing so, she had found a new source of magicon that came not from the moon, but from the joy of those around her. As she flew back to her home in the whispering woods, she was greeted with cheers from her friends. The foxes danced, the rabbits clapped their tiny paws, and the owls hooted in delight. Even Thaddeus, the old tortoise, smiled as he listened to her new song. From that day on, the nightingale's voice was even more powerful than before. It could heal wounds, lift spirits, and bring light to the darkest corners of the forest. And every night, as the moon rose high in the sky, she would sing not just for herself, but for all the creatures who had become her family. And as for the crystal heart she had given up, the magic of the forest had not forgotten her sacrifice. On nights when the moon was hidden behind clouds, a soft glow would still appear in her, just a reminder that the forest itself had given her a new heart, one made of the love she had shared. The end.